Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'll be presenting research on the occurrence of canker and wood rot pathogens on stone fruit propagation material and nursery trees. So dieback and in severe cases death of young stone fruit trees can be caused by different fungal pathogens. As part of the deciduous fruit scheme, nursery trees are visually inspected for fungal diseases. This scheme does not include the majority of fungal canker pathogens, but it does include Chondrotherium purpureum, which is one of the wood rot pathogens. So this study is being done to know the phytosanitary status of young stone fruit trees, and also to determine if the same pathogens that occur on young stone fruit trees are also present on the nursery trees as well as on the propagation material used. The knowledge of this project will then aid in improving the management strategies aimed to minimize the losses of young stone fruit trees. When we look at the scion propagation material, for the green scion shoots, we use 3 plum and 1 nectarine cultivar, and for the dormant shoots, we use only 3 plum cultivars. The 1 nectarine cultivar, we only use green material for. Out of the total number of buds, 0.4% were infected for the green scion shoots and 1.2% for the dormant scion shoots, which is more than double when compared to the green material. For the rootstock material, for the ungrafted rooted rootstock plants, we use 2 plum and 2 nectarine cultivars, and for the dormant rootstock shoots, 2 plum and 1 nectarine cultivar. The second nectarine cultivar is a seedling cultivar, that's why it's not included in the dormant rootstock shoots. The ungrafted rooted rootstock plants had a much higher infection with 16%, compared to the dormant rootstock shoots, but it's interesting to note that the dormant rootstock shoots already had infection before it was planted out in the field. For the 1-year-old nursery trees, a total of 120 trees per combination was sampled. The same nectarine and plum cultivars were used as for the propagation material. The combinations in the red boxes have the highest percentage of infection, and all 3 are grafted onto plum rootstock 1. The combination with the lowest percentage of infection is the 1 nectarine combination with nectarine rootstock 2, and that makes perfectly sense because that's the 1 seedling nectarine cultivar. With regards to the pathogens isolated, the replant disorder pathogens, being the cylindrocarpon complex pathogens, were isolated the most. The Botrytis feriaceae species second. Those are known to cause stem cankers on stone fruit, and the Cadophora species known to cause wood decay on grapevine are third. With regards to the symptoms that were seen when the plant parts were cut open, the streaking was seen at the bottom, at the crown of the rootstock. Then that's also where the replant pathogens were isolated the most. At the wound, where the rootstock were cut back, brown discoloration was seen, and also brown discoloration at the bud union. And the Botrytis feriaceae and the Cadophora species were isolated the most from the wound and the bud union. Then we also did a small trial of only 20 trees per combination to see the difference between pathogens isolated from nursery trees being propagated by either using tissue culture rootstock plants or hardwood rootstock cuttings. And if we look at the pathogens isolated from the crown specifically, there's a difference between the tissue culture and the hardwood cuttings. But it's also interesting to note that there's still infection in the wound and the bud union of the tissue culture plants, which can be due to infections during the oculation process, where sanitation practices of the pruning shears and the oculation knives needs to be looked at, and also protection of the wounds. Then if we look at the symptoms that were seen at the crowns of the tissue culture and the hardwood cuttings, no discoloration was seen at the tissue culture plants at the crown, and brown discoloration streaking upwards at the hardwood cuttings. So the choice of tissue of the rootstock plant can have play a big role in the health status of the plant. Thank you.